Long ago, in a far corner of the galaxy, there was a group of aliens known as the Creel. They were proud and powerful. Their ships were big, full of lights and machines. They believed they were the strongest in the galaxy. One day, they heard about a small blue planet called Earth. They didn't know much about it, only that it was quiet and alone. The Creel thought Earth would be easy to control. No ships came out from it. No signals. Just silence. That made the Creel curious. They thought maybe it was empty. Or maybe the people on Earth were too weak to speak. So the Creel sent a fleet. 10 large ships flew through space, heading straight to Earth. The aliens inside the ships laughed and joked. They believed this mission would be easy. No one was worried. But something strange happened. When the ships reached the edge of the solar system, they sent one last message. We are entering now. After that, nothing. No more signals. No calls. The ships were gone. At first, the Creel thought there was a problem with the equipment. They waited. They sent messages. Still no answer. Then they sent a second fleet to check. This one was smaller, only 5 ships. They also disappeared. Now the Creel became quiet. The leaders met in secret rooms. They spoke in low voices. Some were afraid. Others said it was just space tricks. Maybe there is a black hole, one said. Maybe there is a trap, said another. But none of them had proof. Other alien races started to notice. The Creel were not the only ones who lost ships. A few years earlier, another race called the Drogon had tried to land on Earth. Their ships had also vanished. People remembered, but no one had asked too many questions. Now, the galaxy was paying attention. The Galactic Council met. All the great alien groups sent their leaders. They sat in a round room with stars shining on the ceiling. A map of Earth showed on the table. The room was quiet. This planet is strange, one alien said. It looks peaceful, but something is hiding. We need to find out the truth, said another. After a long talk, the council decided. A new mission would begin. A brave and smart alien captain named Zarnok was chosen. He had been in many space trips. He never failed. His eyes were sharp, and his mind was clear. Zarnok looked at the Earth map. He didn't laugh. He didn't joke. He just said, I will go. He picked a strong team. Scientists, pilots, and smart computers. His ship was the best. Fast, quiet, and full of new machines. The galaxy watched as Zarnok's ship flew into space. As they moved closer to Earth, Zarnok looked out the window. The stars were calm. The journey was smooth. But inside the ship, everyone felt a strange fear. No one said it out loud, but they remembered the missing ships. Then something odd happened. They passed by a space marker. This marker had been left by the first Creel fleet. It was supposed to send out signals every few hours, but it was silent. Dead. Zarnok's computer tried to connect with it. Nothing happened. No power. No light. Like it had been turned off forever. The team looked at each other. Still, Zarnok gave no command to turn back. They kept going. Later, they saw something that made everyone stop. One of the old Creel ships was floating in space. No damage. No fire. But it looked empty. The windows were dark. The lights were off. It didn't answer any calls. Zarnok sent a small probe to scan the ship. As the probe got close, it just stopped. No warning. No signal. It was like it disappeared from space. Gone. Inside Zarnok's ship, silence filled the room. The crew stared at the screen. They didn't understand. Zarnok stood still. His eyes were fixed on the floating ship. He didn't speak, but his mind was full of thoughts. What kind of power could do this? What kind of people lived on Earth? He didn't have the answers, but he knew one thing now. Earth was not weak, and it was not empty. Far from that blue planet, in the quiet of space, something waited. Something watched, and Zarnak was getting closer. Zarnak sat in his command seat, quietly watching the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful from up here, just a ball of clouds and oceans, spinning slowly under the stars. It was hard to believe this quiet world had taken so many ships and given nothing back. His crew moved carefully around him, checking systems, watching the sensors, whispering when they had to speak. Everyone remembered what had happened before. No one wanted to say it, but the fear was growing in the room like a heavy fog. One of the officers, a young pilot named Valor, looked up from her console. "Captain, there's no signal from the surface. No cities, no lights, no tech activity. It's like the whole planet is sleeping." Zarnak didn't answer right away. He tapped his fingers on the armrest, deep in thought. A sleeping planet didn't swallow whole fleets. Something else was going on. Something no one understood yet. "Send out the scouts," he said finally. 2 small ships, quiet and fast, left the main vessel. They moved toward Earth, scanning for life, energy, or movement. Everyone on the main ship watched the data come in. For a while, there was nothing. Just clouds, water, forests. Then the first scout stopped sending data. No warning, just silence. Veller's hands moved quickly across the controls, trying to reconnect. "Sir." Zarnak stood. He walked slowly to the front of the ship, his eyes on the screen. "Try again." "I sent 4 more pings." No answer. Zarnak looked at the second scout. It was still sending data. The pilot was quiet, his voice calm. "Everything looks normal, but I'm getting a strange reading above the north part of the planet. There's something not natural." Before they could ask more, the second scout went silent too. Everyone stared at the screen. 2 ships gone with no sign of danger. No signal, no sign of loss. Just like before. One of the engineers leaned forward. "Sir, what if Earth is not attacking? What if it's protecting something?" Zarnak looked at him. "What do you mean?" The engineer swallowed. "I mean, maybe there's something hidden. Something that activates when others come too close. Not a weapon. Maybe something old. Something alive." The room fell silent. Zarnak walked back to his seat. His mind was racing. He had studied Earth's old records. The humans were known for many things: growth, speed, invention. But above all, they were known for surviving. Even when everything was against them, they found a way to live. They built machines, fought nature, and even left their planet once. But then the records ended. Earth went quiet, as if everyone left, or something changed. He remembered one line from the old human data: "We are not gone. We are waiting." Zarnak's voice was low but clear. "We go closer." The ship moved slowly toward Earth's orbit. A soft hum filled the room as shields adjusted. The crew didn't speak. They watched. They listened. The clouds below began to move in strange ways. Not like natural weather. It was too smooth, too perfect. Circles formed in the skies. Spirals. Valor turned around, her face pale. "Sir, I think we're being washed." Before Zarnak could reply, one of the ship's oldest systems turned on by itself. It was a forgotten program, made only to read ancient Earth languages. A single message appeared on the screen. "You are here. You have questions. You may not like the answers." No one touched the system. No one gave it a command. Zarnak stood again, staring at the words. "Where is this coming from?" Valor shook her head. "It's not from Earth's surface. It's coming from something in orbit. Very high. Very still." The crew scanned space. Far above Earth, hidden behind shadows, was something strange. It looked like a station, but not made by aliens. It was too simple, too clean, and too quiet. It was not broadcasting power. It had no energy lines. But it was there. A shape. A watcher. The ship moved closer. As it did, lights slowly began to turn on across the strange object, one light at a time, like it had been sleeping, like it had been waiting. Then another message appeared. Ask your question. But know this, once you learn, you may never return. Zarnak looked at his crew. No one moved. No one even breathed. He understood now. Earth was not sending warnings. It didn't need to. Whatever was guarding the planet didn't care about visitors. It only cared about the promise it was given long ago. A promise to protect. Zarnak whispered, more to himself than anyone else. What have humans become? And far above, in the silence between stars, something began to wake up. The room was filled with soft lights and quiet beeping sounds from the machines. Zarnak stood near the main screen, his hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the strange object floating above Earth. It didn't look like a normal station. There were no windows, no blinking lights, no signs of life. Yet, it felt like it was watching them. The message still glowed on the screen. Ask your question. But know this, once you learn, you may never return. Zarnak took a slow breath. The words were not a warning. They were a choice. He could turn back now, and maybe go home safely, or he could stay and search for the truth, a truth that many had come looking for, but none had taken back. He turned to his crew. Prepare the data link. I will ask the question. Wheeler and the others looked nervous, but they followed his order. The link was ready in a few minutes. The message Zarnak typed was short. Who are you, and what happened to the others? There was a long pause. No sound, no movement. Then, slowly, the lights on the strange object shifted. Patterns moved across its surface, like it was thinking. Then the screen changed. This time, a voice came. It was soft and calm, speaking in perfect translation. You ask what happened to them. But first, ask yourself, why did they come? The crew listened closely. They came with plans, the voice said. Some came with hope, some with fear, and some with pride. But none came with understanding. They looked at Earth and saw only silence. They did not see what grew in the silence. Zarnak stepped forward. What grows in silence? There was no reply, only another shift of lights. Then a picture appeared. It was not a photo, but something older, a drawing. It showed humans walking on the moon. Behind them stood a tall, dark structure, simple in shape, almost like a box. The humans were smiling. The voice continued. They left their world behind. But they did not forget. Before they went, they built this. It watches, it learns, it remembers. And when someone arrives, it chooses what they must see. Zarnak looked at the image. So the humans are gone. The voice answered. They moved beyond. Far beyond. They no longer need Earth, but they do not want it harmed. They left behind a guardian, not to fight, not to chase, but to understand. The lights on the object began to glow more brightly now. It felt like the air inside the ship had changed, heavier, as if time itself was paying attention. Zarnak asked, what happened to the others who came before us? The voice was quiet for a moment. They asked the same. But they did not listen. They wanted control, not knowledge. They were given a choice. Some chose to leave. Some did not. Their ships are now empty. Their minds are with us. Wheeler looked at Zarnak with wide eyes. Sir, does it mean? Their minds are still here. Zarnak didn't answer. He was deep in thought. This was no simple machine. This was something more. Something built not just with hands, but with deep ideas. It didn't protect Earth with walls. It protected it with truth. Can we leave? Zarnak asked carefully. The voice replied, you may, but you must carry only memory, not secrets. You will forget the path you took. You will forget the shape of this place. You will only remember that you were not ready. Zarnak turned to his crew. Some looked relieved. Others looked unsure. What if we stay? he asked again. The voice became softer. Then you will learn, but you will never return. Another image appeared. This time, it showed a wide room filled with soft light. Many forms were sitting. Some alien, some almost human, some no one could name. They were not speaking, but they looked peaceful, as if they had found something greater than questions. Zarnak lowered his voice. And the humans? Where are they now? There was silence. Then the final message came. They are where questions no longer matter. The screen faded. The lights on the station dimmed once again. The crew waited for Zarnak's command. He said nothing for a long time. Then finally, in a voice full of calm but heavy with wonder, he said, "Prepare to return. We are not ready." And deep in orbit, the quiet object watched them go, its lights soft as stars. The journey back from Earth's orbit was quiet, but not peaceful. Zarnak sat in his private chamber, staring at the curved window, watching the stars shift slowly as their ship moved away from the blue planet. He was not the same captain who had arrived. And neither was his crew. They had left Earth behind, as the Guardian had allowed. But something felt different inside each of them, like a puzzle that no longer had all its pieces. They remembered Earth's silence, the strange object in orbit, the voice that spoke without fear. But the deeper answers, those were already fading. Wheeler, now acting as first officer, entered the room quietly. "Sir," she said, her voice soft, "we've completed the scans. Everything seems normal. The ship's systems are stable, and the crew, they're functioning. But," Zarnak turned to her. "But what?" She hesitated. "Some of them say they've been dreaming. About Earth. About people they've never met. Some say they see cities that aren't on any map. Others hear music when there is none." Zarnak stood slowly. "And you?" "I saw a garden," she said, almost whispering. It was floating in the sky, and there were voices, but not speaking. Just sharing thoughts. I woke up with the feeling that they were trying to show me something important." Zarnak looked away, thoughtful. "We were told we would forget, but they didn't say how." He walked to the control panel and tapped in a command. A small screen opened with their ship's travel history. He scrolled back to their arrival point, only to find it was missing. No coordinates, no logs, just empty space, like they had never been near Earth. "They removed the records," he said quietly. "They don't want anyone following us back." Wheeler nodded. "Then how do we explain what we saw?" Zarnak smiled faintly. "Maybe we're not supposed to explain it. Maybe we're supposed to feel it." A soft beep interrupted the silence. The navigation system was adjusting course again, back toward their home system. But suddenly, a new marker appeared on the map. It was not a command from anyone on the ship, just a point in space. No name, no history. Wheeler looked at it closely. That wasn't there before. Zarnak's eyes narrowed. "It's guiding us. Why would the Guardian send us somewhere else?" "Maybe there's more to learn," Zarnak said. "Or maybe it wants us to meet others." They followed the new path. Days passed. The crew kept working, but the dreams continued. They shared them quietly in the halls, during meals, in whispered moments. None of the dreams were the same, but all had a strange connection, symbols, shapes, emotions that felt too real to ignore. Finally, they arrived. There was no planet, no station, just a field of light, wide and endless, like space itself had become liquid. And then the lights moved, not like machines, not like ships. They danced, slowly, gently, like they were alive. Wheeler gasped. "Are they waiting for us?" Zarnak stepped forward. The front screen opened wide, showing the full view. In the middle of the lights was something faint, a soft outline, like a door, made of starlight. No words appeared. No voice spoke. Zarnak understood anyway. This was not a place to fear. It was a place to decide. He turned to his crew. "This is not a mission anymore," he said. "This is a choice. What we saw on Earth, it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something greater. We were shown a path, and now we've been given another." No one spoke. Some looked uncertain. Some looked hopeful. Zarnak stepped forward. "I can't order anyone to go through that, but I am going." He walked toward the chamber that held the small exploration pod. The door opened slowly. Vayler followed him. "So am I," she said. One by one, others joined them. The pod launched slowly, gliding into the lights. As they entered the glowing field, the stars around them faded. The sound of the ship's systems became quieter, until there was nothing at all. Then, a soft hum filled the air, not from outside, but from within. Each person began to feel something they couldn't explain. Not fear, not confusion. Understanding. In that place, there were no names, no maps, just pure thought. And something was there, waiting. Not a being, not a voice, but a presence, and it welcomed them. The light around them slowly changed. It was no longer a glowing field or a storm of stars. It became something else, something peaceful. The crew inside the pod felt like they were floating, not through space, but through memory. Zarnak opened his eyes. He was still in the pod, but everything around him had changed. The walls of the pod were gone, replaced by open sky, soft and golden. He stood on solid ground that felt warm under his feet, though there was no sun, no wind, no sound. Just calm. Vayler was nearby. She looked around with wonder, her eyes wide. "Are we still inside the pod?" she asked quietly. "I don't think so," Zarnak replied. "But I think we're still together." Other members of the crew appeared slowly, one by one. They were all here, but the place had changed them somehow. Their uniforms were gone, replaced with simple clothing. Their minds felt clearer, lighter, as if a weight had been removed they didn't even know was there. In the distance, a soft shape began to form. It wasn't a building, but it had the feeling of a home. Not made from stone or metal, but from light and memory. It shimmered gently, calling them forward, without words. As they walked closer, the ground beneath their feet seemed to respond. Flowers grew with each step, soft colors blooming for only a moment before fading away again. The sky above shifted from gold to blue to silver, like it was reflecting the feelings in their hearts. When they reached the shimmering structure, they stopped. No doors, no windows, just a soft wall of light. Then, slowly, an opening formed. Inside, they saw themselves. Not mirrors, not copies, but moments, memories. Each person saw something different. Vayler saw herself as a child, standing under a bright tree, looking up at the stars. Zarnak saw the moment he became captain, the weight of responsibility landing on his shoulders. And then something else appeared. A human, but not a person standing in front of them. More like the shape of a human, made from stars and soft light. It didn't speak, but everyone could feel what it meant. The message was simple. "You are ready to listen." Zarnak stepped forward. "Are you the ones who built the Guardian above Earth?" The figure nodded once. "Why show us this?" Vayler asked. "Why now?" The human-shaped light moved slowly, as if walking among them. Again, no voice, but the meaning flowed into their minds. "Because you came not to take, but to ask. You stepped back when others stepped forward. That is why you were allowed to come here." The space around them shifted again. Now they were standing in a place that looked like a city, but not built by hands. It felt like it had grown from the ground, shaped by thought, emotion, and time. Zarnak looked around. Where are the humans now? The light form paused. Then the message came. They moved beyond the edge of knowing. Their bodies were not enough. They became something greater. They gave up control and gained understanding. The crew felt the words inside, not just in their minds, but in their hearts. It was not about power. It was not about territory. The humans had left behind a way of thinking that others still chased. Wheeler asked, "And what is this place?" "It is a step between what was and what could be." Zarnak looked up. "Can we stay?" There was a long pause. "You may choose, but know this. The more you learn here, the less you will belong to the world you left." The light figure faded slowly. The shimmering city remained. The crew stood in silence. No one rushed. No one argued. Because deep inside, they knew they had reached something rare. Not a hidden weapon. Not a secret base. But a gift. A path to grow, not with machines, but with thought. Not to conquer, but to understand. And it had all started with one silent object, floating above Earth, watching. Zarnak smiled gently. "Let the crew rest. Let them walk this place." Wheeler nodded, her eyes calm. "We'll decide when we're ready." Above them, the sky continued to shift, filled with stars that seemed closer than ever. The sky had turned a soft shade of blue-green, and the city of light stretched quietly in all directions. The crew, still adjusting to this peaceful new space, walked slowly along paths that seemed to appear as needed, winding lanes through gardens of glowing plants, quiet lakes with water that reflected thoughts, and tall structures that sang gentle tones when touched. Days passed. At least, they thought it was days. Time felt different here. It didn't tick forward in seconds or hours, but moved with feelings, memories, and learning. Zarnak spent most of his time exploring alone. He had questions, but this place rarely answered in words. Instead, it taught through experience. One morning, Zarnak found himself at the edge of a great open field. In the center, a large stone floated a few feet above the ground. He approached, curious. As he stood before it, the air around him changed. The stone began to glow gently, and images formed in the space above it. It was Earth, but not as they had seen it before. This Earth was alive with energy. Cities, forests, oceans, all connected. And around it, thousands of stars formed patterns, symbols he couldn't read, but felt he could somehow understand. Behind him, Wheeler approached. "I've been seeing similar things," she said softly. "The places we visit, they show us visions, not of the past or future, but of meaning." Zarnak nodded. "It's like the planet is telling us why the humans left." Wheeler stepped beside him. "Do you think they planned all this?" Zarnak thought for a moment. "I think they prepared it. Not as a message to all, but to those who choose to listen." Just then, the vision changed. It showed the galaxy, not with ships or borders, but with light, moving between stars like rivers. The light flowed easily in some places, but was blocked in others. And one of the brightest points was Earth. Zarnak felt something in his chest. "They didn't just protect Earth," he whispered. "They protected balance." He realized then that the guardian in orbit was never a weapon. It was a guidepost, a warning, a protector of something deeper, an idea, one that couldn't be taken or stolen. Wheeler stepped forward, reaching out toward the glowing stone. Her hand passed through the light, and suddenly her eyes widened. "I can feel them," she said, not like a voice, not even like thoughts, just presence. Others from the crew arrived. Each one felt it in their own way. Some saw colors, some heard melodies, some remembered things they had never lived. No one was left untouched. Later that day, the crew gathered near the lake, where the water showed reflections not of themselves, but of their hopes, fears, and questions. One crew member, Trell, said quietly, "I always thought exploration meant discovering planets, charting maps, naming things. But now I wonder if it really means discovering ourselves." No one laughed. No one disagreed. Zarnak looked at his team. "We've been offered something. Not knowledge like a book or tools like machines. We've been offered a different way to exist." Wheeler added, "But we can't stay forever without changing." And that was the truth that hung in the air. This place was not just a destination. It was a test. The humans who had once lived on Earth had passed it. They had moved beyond, but only by giving up the old ways of control, power, and fear. In return, they had found something greater. Not everyone was ready for that step. Zarnak knew some of his crew would choose to return, and some would not. He walked back toward the center of the city, where the light was strongest. There, a new path had opened, not a physical one, but one within. When he stepped forward, he was no longer in the city. He was standing in space, yet breathing easily. Earth floated nearby, silent and distant. A human figure, made of the same soft light as before, stood beside him. It didn't speak, but Zarnak understood the message. Are you ready to carry what you've learned? Zarnak didn't answer with words. He simply bowed his head. He knew the journey back would not be easy. The galaxy outside still moved with fear, with greed, with old goals. But now, he held a truth that could not be stolen, copied, or broken. A seed of understanding. He had walked through memory, light, and thought. And now, it was time to decide what to do with the gift. The stars above were quiet now, as if listening. Zarnak stood on the soft hill that overlooked the glowing city one last time. The sky above shimmered with gentle light, the same light that had shown them visions, memories, and the silent message of a forgotten people who would become something more. Behind him, the crew waited, each carrying their own choice. Some had decided to stay, not forever, but for longer. To learn, to understand, to walk the paths until their hearts felt full enough to return. Others, like Zarnak, had chosen to go back, not because they were done learning, but because they now held a message that needed to be shared. Not in words, but in action. The journey back began not with ships or engines, but with thought. As the crew stepped into the soft circle of light that had once brought them here, the city responded. The glowing trees folded gently. The flowing water stilled. The wind whispered goodbye in a language beyond sound. And just like that, they were back in their ship. Not a single second had passed on the controls. No systems had changed. The stars outside looked the same. But inside each of them, something had shifted. Zarnak sat in the command chair, his hands resting on the console without touching it. He closed his eyes for a moment. He could still feel the city, the light, the silence filled with meaning. Veeler sat beside him. It almost feels like a dream now, she said softly. Zarnak nodded. But dreams fade. This won't. They powered up the ship, though now the engines felt smaller than before. The idea of racing through space, looking for control or advantage, seemed quiet now, empty. As they moved away from Earth, the ship's sensors picked up the same object in orbit, the Guardian. But now, Zarnak could sense its purpose clearly. It didn't stop invaders with force. It didn't destroy or punish. It simply waited. And those who came with fear or greed were met with their own reflection, magnified, until they turned away or vanished. Those who came open were shown a path. Zarnak opened the ship's log and began to record. This is Captain Zarnak, returning from Earth orbit. We came with questions, and we found, not answers, but a direction. Earth holds no weapons. It holds no armies. It holds something else, something older than power, something deeper than control. He paused, thinking. We saw what remains when a people grow beyond need. We saw how knowledge can be shared without words, how understanding begins when control ends. He turned off the recording. There was more to say, but not like this. The galaxy would not understand it in a message. They would need to feel it, walk it, see it themselves. A few weeks later, their ship arrived at the nearest spaceport. The galaxy hadn't changed. Trade ships still moved in lines. Stations buzzed with news, markets, and deals. But the crew walked through it differently now. They looked around not with hunger or ambition, but with a quiet calm. People asked them what happened near Earth, what they found. Zarnak simply smiled and said, "Something worth finding for yourself." Some laughed. Some pressed harder. But Zarnok didn't push back. He had learned something more powerful than explanation: patience. He began writing. Not reports or warnings, but stories. Stories of a city of light, of memories that spoke, of a planet that taught without teaching. And slowly, others began to listen. Not many at first, but a few. One ship asked for coordinates. Another asked for a path. Zarnok gave them both, but added a simple note: go not to take, but to listen. Go not to prove, but to wonder. Years passed. More ships came. Some never returned. Some came back changed. And across the stars, a quiet idea began to grow. That maybe the most powerful civilizations weren't those with the biggest fleets or the strongest shields, but the ones who knew how to step aside, to listen, to reflect. The mystery of Earth remained, but it was no longer a warning. It had become a beginning. And somewhere beyond the stars, where time moved not in hours, but in understanding, the humans watched, not with eyes, but with presence. They had left behind no monuments, no rulers, no demands, only a path. And those brave enough to walk it would never see the stars the same way again.